Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Defend Philly. I'm Vani and with Louis Coco, we're here to break down the latest Flyers news. And Louis, it hasn't been great. Let's talk about it. So
Yeah, no, not
go
good.
for it. So we had a great streak beating some of the top teams. And after Thursday night's loss to the Boston Bruins, they have lost three straight games. Travis Konechny is talking about he's sick of not making the playoffs. We have players. Sam Erison's hurt, left the game. What are your immediate thoughts?
My immediate thoughts are playoff hopes were nice. But look, I think what I want to get out of the way in the beginning of the episode here is the fact that I think along the way we might have lost the plot a little bit. And I think I might be a little bit guilty of it too. We were not expecting, we go back to the tapes. We were not expecting anything from this team
We
in the
have the
beginning of the
tapes. They're on
season. We
YouTube,
do. I was going to say, you can follow us at Defend Philly on Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, whatever,
TikTok.
Instagram. It's all over the place. You and I talked about it a lot in the beginning of the season. This team, we didn't expect them to go anywhere. We didn't expect this to be even a playoff team. It was like it would be cool if we sniffed the playoffs, or maybe like bubble team, but that would be, way above expectation to be a bubble team. And then all of a sudden, in the beginning of the season, they come out super hot. They're winning all these games at home. They looked unbeatable on home ice.
A
They
team
won
we haven't seen in a while.
a weird looking Flyers team because it
Mhm.
wasn't what we were used to. And we were then all of a sudden catapulted into this idea that, holy cow, this could be we could, again, not contend. That was never the idea here. We never said the Flyers were going to be a contender. And I think I said 5 years out to be a contender.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden we're like, holy cow, playoff team, holy cow, bubble team, holy cow, playoff team.
Hmm.
And it was looking great. I mean, they were like locked up in the third spot in the Metro. We're probably going to be a top seed, not top seed, but not a wild card team. We're going to be above the wild card line, and you know, I think we got so caught up in that all of a sudden when the Flyers kind of fall out of the sky, dropping 10 of the last 12, now we're like,
World's
I
over.
can't believe this is happening. Well,
Hmm.
and again, I think I got caught up in it too. But I'm thinking about the way we began the season, you and I, and I'm sure a lot of other people. This was kind of the plan. I mean, the plan was to make the playoffs. So I guess we're under. The Flyers are underachieving.
But the plan wasn't even to make the playoffs. That's the thing. The plan was to start
Well,
establishing like a foundation and start building and not be like that's what I think where I just like I kind of disagree with you because I think going into this, like I've said, even in our past couple episodes, I've been like, is this team legit? I've been like, no, they have to make it through this January, February stretch. They can make it through this January, February stretch and they can be consistent, then I'd like to see it. But I've never fully bought into this team is it. Like this is the hottest team. We have the Flyers back. I just don't think that was true. I think that this was the plan all along. There were going to be some hiccups. There were going to be some losses. And I don't think this team was expected to make the playoffs. And anything that they've done, I think hot take, but I think we should be very appreciative for what we saw because this is what we were expecting to see, is what we're seeing right now. But we just got so clouded by what we saw early on in the season that was good hockey that we're like, this team has disappointed us yet again, but it hasn't. Their message has stayed the same.
I think the goalposts moved a little bit once the team came out of the gate hot. Again, we just said it. You and I were never expecting this team to make the playoffs. But then when they all of a sudden looked like a playoff team, I think, again, at least personally for me, I was thinking to myself, all right, maybe we jumped up in the timeline by a year. Maybe we're a bubble team now, and maybe I'm crazy for thinking that. I mean, anyone could look back now in retrospect. I mean, hindsight's 2020 and say, yeah, you're an idiot for thinking that. But no, because Trevor Zegras was unbelievable. Dan
Mhm.
Villard having a career season. Um, you know, the guys looked like they were fired up to play hockey again, and they were holding a playoff spot for a very
Yeah.
long time. So while didn't expect them in the beginning of the season to make the playoffs, it kind of became a holy crap, this could be what we're
It
looking
did.
at for the season.
But
But
it's so typical for this to
I,
have happened.
it is, it is, and I said it in 2 episodes ago, I think, or maybe it was the most recent episode that I did. Um, that
The
when
solo
you
up.
were, yeah, the solo pod. Um, I talked about I don't like looking back at the past and saying, well, this is how it is, because it's a different team, a lot of, not a lot of different players, but a couple different players, whole new head coach. So I didn't want to look at the way the team had performed in the last few seasons and been like,
Yeah.
okay, by game 50 they're just gonna fall apart like they do every year, because I and again, hindsight's 2020, and that is exactly what happened. But early in the season, you couldn't sit there and tell. I'm not saying you personally, but no one could sit there and tell me, yeah, I'm attacking you. Um, no one could sit there and tell me, yeah, oh, this team will never make the playoffs, because you don't know that. You don't have a crystal ball. And look, kudos to you. Do you want a gold star if you were like, this team, you were just skeptical from the beginning? Awesome. I'm so glad that could see into the future. You know, what the hell is the climate going to look like
Mhm.
in a few years? Crystal ball person. But
But let's
like,
talk about the problem here. Like, what is the problem? Because to me, it's not Talkit, it's not
no.
Danny. The problem is the fact that we've talked about this time and time again. You do not have a number one center, and your goaltending is struggling. When the goaltending is struggling, there's nothing we can do. Last night, Sam Ersson, I didn't know when I recorded my initial post-game thoughts because I was working the game. I didn't know that he was out with a lower body injury. I just saw him not return to the game. And I could see the injury happen actually. And Vladar comes in, and Vladar did great. But Sam Ersson last night, it was like flashes of the old Ersson, and you can see the immediate difference in the second and the third period at the way this team plays in front of them. This team stands up for Dan Vladar, and they are there for him. And I don't know why. I don't know if that's a personal thing, if that's a performance thing. I don't know why. I don't need to know why. I just see it, and something about that needs to change. Or you need to get going. I don't think Sam Ersson at this point should be getting any starts.
the
But I
issue
don't think
is
Dan Vladar can be your number one.
what
And so it goes back to the ongoing issue of goaltending. And not having a number one center is killing them. I mean, what? They bumped Coots to the fourth line. Like, this
and
team really needs a star, and they do not have it.
there's a couple issues with everything that we're saying. I'm not saying there's issues with what you're saying. There's issues with what's going on here.
Yeah.
And I think you laid out a bunch of the issues. You know, I'm not out on Tocchet yet either. It is 50
Mm-mm.
something games into his
No,
first season as the head coach.
no.
I understand now. You know, I think there's more merit to looking back at Tocchet's past coaching performances and using that. I talked about don't look at the Flyers' performance of the past few years at game 50, because, that won't help you tell what this team is going to do, because the season's so different. I think with head coaching, there is
Yeah.
more validity to looking back at his past performances. So while I'm not out on Tocchet yet,
No.
there probably needs to be some changes there. Again, early in the season, it looked like they were playing for him and really wanted to be there. Now, I don't know. I really hesitate to say that his message has worn off, because it's 50 games into the season. And by the way, for those that are calling for Tocchet to be fired after the season, not
Insane.
happening, because he's
Insane.
on a 5-year deal, and that would be a what, even whether or not it's true, and I don't believe that he's really the number one problem here, whether or not that's true, Dan Hilferty and the Flyers and Danny Briere and Keith Jones are not going to fire him, because that would be a 100% admission of guilt. And again, I also think he needs a little more time. To your point, though, with the goaltending situation, Ersson has been bad. And mind, and here's the weird thing. He has been bad, but did you see his all-star performance last night on some of those saves? I mean,
Yes.
10 bell, like, save of the year candidate
Yes.
saves, and then he lets in the beach ball shots from wherever. So he's just
So
having a weird season, and he's
weird.
just not
Bad. I
he's
mean,
not good.
the thing to me is I look at overall, and overall, he
He's
was
not good.
bad. I mean, he let up 5 goals. I mean, I'm working the Bruins game, so I'm with Bruins personnel, and they're the ones talking about it. And I'm around Bruins fans, and they're so excited because it's like you have no idea what you're getting with this guy. Like he could make an all-star save or it's going right through him. And there's no in between. And so like that game last night was just so hard. I mean, granted, there were a couple shots where it was like I mean, the Flyers even, where it was like the third one, the third attempt got
Right.
in. That
Right.
happened to Erison too. But like, and also turnover central. I don't even want to get into that. It was a mess. But I think that like the inconsistency overall, you can be inconsistent and still win games. He's not a good goaltender. The good outweighs or under the bad outweighs the good for this, and it just makes him a bad goaltender. And he's not like being surrounded
That
by a team who's not defending for you, not playing for you in front of you. Like you can't do that. That's not gonna win. That's not gonna have a winning season, which was all I asked for.
yeah, that and Vladar being injured, he's not going to be able to handle the full workload as a starter. So,
No. And I'm
you know,
concerned. I
goalie
didn't see
purgatory.
anything. But did Vladar, was there anything about Vladar? I didn't see anything, but I was concerned at the end of the game there. I was kind of
Yeah.
doing a little zoom in on him, trying to see, but he looked a little bit like he
It
was.
from what I saw on the internet, it seems like some people think he's banged up.
I think he's a
I
little
don't know.
banged up. I think that but I could see the moment when Erison got banged up, and it's just, I mean, it was hard. It was a hard game to watch, and I think that this team definitely needs to change. But go ahead,
No, I was gonna say I have a question for you.
let's hear it.
Um, do the Flyers, you know, look? I think this might be like an inadvertent tank. They are not trying to tank. The messaging is that we're not tanking, we're not tanking, we're not tanking. Are the Flyers in an inadvertent tank? I mean, they just can't get out of their own way, and they just keep losing games. So it's effectively working as a tank. And I have some of the I'm simulating the draft lottery here, and I've done it like 100 times, and well, not 100 times, but finally the Flyers got into the second pick, but they're floating around 11 here, and I just keep reloading the sim lottery. So that's crazy, and that sucks. Um, the other question is, do they need to sell at the deadline, and who do they sell? Because some online, and I despise Flyers Twitter. I despise Twitter. And Flyers
Seems
Twitter's
to be the like message of every
is
podcast.
is just is just as bad as any Twitter community. Um, but do we need to trade Travis Konecny? Because
No,
post game, did you see his post game comments?
I
I'm
did.
so tired of missing the playoffs, and he just looked completely
He said,
dejected.
I have it here, quote, "It's frustrating because I've been through this so many times. I'm tired of missing the playoffs. That is kind of all I look at right now. Just want to get points for the team, and we need to figure something out." But at the same time, he leads the team in goals. He leads
Yeah,
the team in assists. He leads the team in points. This guy, like,
he's a dog.
he's a dog. And the message that he is putting out there is hard to see, right? It is frustrating. We are frustrated. But I think you're selling yourself too early.
So I don't want to believe me. He is one of my most favorite Flyers ever, ever. I have always been a huge Travis Konecny fan, and I've fought with some people on Twitter about Travis Konecny early in the season because he was having a bad he was having a bad early part of the season. Now he's the only player that's even like essentially playing for the Flyers right now. Um, I'm wondering, and I was reading Kevin Kurz' article in The Athletic, and he has Travis Konecny listed as like an unlikely person to trade, or someone that it would need to be like an unbelievable offer, or an unbelievable return to trade Konecny. Um, but like it's almost like a mercy, like let go of Travis Konecny if they do trade him to a potential contender. And here's the thing: at the deadline, teams might overpay for a guy like that, for a veteran leader who is currently leading your team in points. So you're not just going to give up on that guy easily. I mean, I at this point, I just don't think. Can the Flyers make the playoffs mathematically? Yes. Will they? I don't think they are going to make the playoffs at this point, just with the way everything's shaking out. Because while the East is tight, they're just dropping game after game after game. They're
Yeah, we're in second to
falling,
last place.
and we're falling further and further and further away from that line. And the
The only
wild,
team worse than us is the Rangers,
yeah,
who had three penalties on one play.
3 penalties on one play, and their owner sent out a message to fans: "Sorry, we suck.
Hey,
We're
let's not talk
selling."
about owners sending out messages because I heard season ticket holders got a nice message from the
Oh
Flyers as
boy,
well. Hmm.
saying what, that this is over? White
No, but
flag.
they failed their well, first there are a couple things that come we can break it down later.
Okay.
But the Flyers have sent out a message as well.
Oh great.
But we are I mean, we're still 7 points up on them, but we're at the bottom. You're
We're at,
right, we're at the bottom.
we're at the bottom, and in theory, you could get some sort of return and start piling assets for the draft, or you could start piling assets for, the future. I I don't want to trade Konechny. I really,
I
really
don't want
don't.
to trade Connectney.
But I'm who on this team even has trade value? Konechny, maybe.
Tippett.
Tippett, probably.
Hat trick Tippett.
And his trade value is only going up by the game because he's playing the most consistent hockey of his career probably right now, which is random because the Owen Tippett experience is
Wait. Some of
headlined
us
by
always had faith in
inconsistency.
him.
I haven't. It is headlined by inconsistency
But I
and
think you
missing the
could
net by
definitely
12 feet.
I feel like Tippett would be the only person with trade value. I don't know,
I
but I also about this tank, like I don't think
tank.
this like tank, I don't think I like while I think logistically it would help to get a top draft pick, I do not think this team is at a point where they should intentionally tank. I know that they're not, but I just don't think, I mean, there's the whole debate of should they tank or should they push for the playoffs? And I think there's an in between where like you don't tank, you just keep building. And
Or you don't tank and just like stay as is and just keep losing on your own merit.
yeah,
And which sucks because we don't want to see that. No one wants to see that. Going into the season again, they said playoffs would be the hope, and you and I said that's a far-fetched idea. And then they decided all of a sudden to play really well in the beginning of the season, and that was like, oh, well, playoffs, maybe it really is.
playoffs.
And now all of a sudden they're dropping all these points, and I keep refresh. I'm sitting here just constantly hitting sim lottery on Tankathon, sim lottery, sim lottery. The Flyers are like 99 times out of 100 in the 11th spot. And it sounds like it's a deep draft, and I need to do a lot more research on the draft. But based on this, the Flyers have like a 3% chance or something of getting the first overall pick, 3.1%. But it's not an impossibility because the Islanders had like a 1% chance of landing
Yeah.
Matthew Schaefer last year, and they did all of a
And look at how
sudden.
that's turned out for them.
And he's been unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, in theory, I guess they could get the first overall pick, but it is not likely. I just reset it, and then I did sim lottery again. Now we're still at the 11th pick. So it's
No.
yeah. This Flyers team looks like they're at the present moment. If the lottery happened right now, most likely in the 11th spot. I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know. I think that it's really tough with this team, and that loss last night is so discouraging.
Well, it
That's a
just
hard one.
it just shoots another hole in the sails that were already full of holes.
Yes. However,
And
the only positive that we take away is Grebenkin.
yeah, and honestly, I was actually looking at, again, this is Kevin Kurz in the Athletic. He did a pretty good and a good article that talks about the trade potential, and he has Nikita Grebenkin as unplayer in the young players that aren't untouchable, along with Bobby Brink and Emil Andre.
Mm.
But again, I mean, Nikita Grebenkin definitely increased his trade value last night. He looked good.
He
He had a
looked good.
goal. He crashed the net, which nobody seems to do anymore.
He made up for the reverse
And he
call.
did. I was gonna say he crashed the net twice, and like looked pretty good on a
Yeah,
on a on a top six line. So, I mean,
we'll see.
he's not untouchable. Can they get some great return for him? I don't know. He's only 22 or 23. So in theory, but it just doesn't seem like there are a lot of players on this team that the Flyers can get a good return for. And so, you know,
What do you do? Where
they
do you go?
well, purgatory is where we are, where the Flyers are, and then You
How do you
best
turn it around?
well, it's gonna have to be. It's probably not gonna be trades at the deadline because I just
Who?
yeah. Well,
Value?
the
Yeah.
Flyers can't trade anyone,
No.
and at this point, I think it would be a waste if they decide to start buying at the deadline, just because the season seems like it's in the toilet anyway. So why would you start buying all these players up? Trade off whoever you can, get some assets, and hope for a better than the 11th pick in the draft, and make some good free agent acquisitions. I don't know.
Brutal. Yeah, it's been a tough time. Okay, well, thank you as always for tuning in. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, our website, or Instagram, or Twitter, everywhere. Basically anywhere. You can find us
Basically
anywhere.
anywhere. Just
Yeah.
search Defend Philly. It'll come up.
Next time we come back, hopefully we'll have a more light episode. But in the meantime, stay tuned and subscribe. Thank you.